Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Small Business Success Talk. I'm your host, Christy Smallwood. It's glad to have you back. I am joined today by a new friend of mine. I met him last fall at our local business expo, and it was cool. Has started a new venture, which is not a new business, but he's taken over an existing business. So I'm curious to hear his story and how he's getting into it. And it's just a great conversation. Before we get to that, I do want to, like I usually do some shout outs. One of all to my team. My team, thank you, Ashley and Ellie and Maverick, for backing me up on this show, helping me get all of the back end work done. And Sandy's in there too, whenever she can pop in to help out. I could not get this show out on a consistent enough basis by myself. So I very much appreciate my team for pitching in and helping out. Then I also want to shout out to my local chamber of St. Matthews, because, we're just awesome. We had our annual dinner at the end of February and it rocked. I mean, we had a 90s theme and it was amazing. And we're all looking forward to next year because it's going to be the 50s. And y'all, I cannot express to you how excited I'm going to be for that. So stay tuned for information on that. And I don't think I'm going to take up too much more of your time. Andrew is awesome. We had a great conversation. Andrew Roush, he is now owner of Be Fresh Laundry. So BEE, little B. It's so fun. They should totally use Flight of the Bumblebee somewhere along the way. If you know, you know. Hearing about that, and come to find out it's a full-on family-owned business. So if you are a family-owned business owner, you're going to want to listen to some of this and great insights along the way. So as usual, here's another great episode, a great guest. Join me and Andrew Roush talking about family-owned business and Be Fresh Laundry. So Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on this episode today. I cannot wait to hear all about this venture that you threw out at me. It's been a year, almost. In a few months, it'll be a year since I saw you last. Yeah. And you have this venture going on. I want to hear all about it. And it's Be Laundry, like BEZUB.
You got it. Yeah. Okay. BEE Fresh Laundry. That's it.
Awesome. Okay. So give me the origin story with all of this.
Yeah. So actually, I was taught probably with most small business owners is just the concept of an ideal, like what can I provide that helps people? And I have a million thoughts a day. And one of them was, what if we provided a pickup drop off laundry service at the convenience of people just scheduling it online, and then we go to their homes, grab the laundry, do it for them, return it back to the house. And of course, when I came around and I realized, wait, laundromats are doing this. There are some competitors out there. But what if we did it a little bit differently? And so a couple months went by, I was toying with the ideal, had a conversation with my brother, and he was like, hey, out of all your ideas, a lot of them are dumb. This is a good one. I think we should consider running with this, right?
Leave it to
I said, okay, that's right. So you can call it a coincidence. I don't think so, but I happened to go to a coffee shop and I looked to my right and there was this card that said Be Fresh Laundry and the owner was on there. So I said, man, this is odd. Like I just thought of this idea. I was talking to my brother about it, or another colleague about it too. And I said, let me contact him, learn about the market. What are things that he's having success with in the market from this type of organization? Some failures, trends, anything back in business stuff that helps me understand if it's worth pursuing or not. Had like an hour-long conversation with the owner at that time. And by the end of it, he was like, hey, I'm actually I'm moving. So I literally need to sell the business. Would you be interested in buying it? I said, interested, sure. Throw a price out and let's reconnect. So he gave us a price, reconnected a couple more times, had a lot of questions about the client base, current book of business, all that good stuff. And eventually ended up buying the business, my brother and I. So we've been owners now of Be Fresh Laundry for the past few months. I talked earlier about opportunity, right? So one thing we did in right away is today in the lay of the land of pickup drop off laundry services, a lot of companies charge per pound, which is unique, right? It looks really good on site. So you go on a website and it says, hey, $1.78 per pound. And I kind of feel like that's a weird way to do business by per pound basis, because one, I don't know how much my clothes weigh.
I don't weigh I would not know the answer to that. I wouldn't be able to judge ahead of time how much
Yeah,
budget for this.
it's hard, right? So the time you go through the process and you actually get the price, it can be pretty high up there, right? So we thought, hey, one, transparent pricing. We want to do upfront pricing. The consumer knows what they're getting, the value they're getting for it. And then the second piece is utilizing technology to drive more shoppers to customers, right? Because as small business owners, all of our focus is anybody in the e-commerce world or just in general, and I'll use the word shopper for now, anybody looking for a type of service, they're considered to be a shopper. We want to convert them to customers, and we want to utilize the technology and the resources today to do that. So, you kind of combine both of those, and that's where we're at now with Be Fresh Laundry. And we have, again, probably another 50 more ideas to scale the company, but we got to crawl, walk, run this. Right? Let's start off slow, build the proper foundation of the home. You got to have your, concrete poured, set, and then we can start going up with it.
So what kind of success was he having before he sold?
He used a lot of social media traffic to drive to the website.
Okay.
He had an IT background. So he was very savvy IT wise, obviously the concept ideal came to him at that point. There were some areas, again, the reason we bought the business, we saw opportunities to focus from a sales and marketing perspective, which is more my background, to be able to grow the company from that end, as well as networking and local businesses, things of that nature. So the success he had to do a lot with using social media to drive traffic to the website from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, things like that. Previously, though, the website was kind of more designed as a competitor, though, where you had a lot of pricing options, you had a lot of pickup and drop off delivery times. From an efficiency standpoint, we reduced that. We've narrowed that down to just basically a smaller time frame so that we pick up many more bags in one day, and then we're able to return that within a 24 to 48-hour period. Same thing, right? We're only making one run to do that. For all of our customers. And so from an operational efficiency standpoint, that made a lot of sense to try to reduce that and control that. Customers were still happy and we were more profitable in the back end for the business.
So let's talk about the website here for a second. What are some things that you found? Because you've bought this, right? You didn't create it from scratch. What did you find that you knew you immediately needed to change to make it better?
Reducing the available options for pricing was the first thing. So beforehand, and if you look in the industry, there's companies who you can do like different type of dry cleaning services, right? Whether it's ironing, whether it's certain type of stain removal. I mean, believe it or not, the list goes on. It's not just pick up and wash and you're done.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of options that. So we reduced that to say, hey, what's the core of the business model? Core of the business model is laundry services, wash and fold. We can help remove stains, no problem. That's a part of the service. Let's get away from ironing, right? Let's move away from that. We know it's time consuming. That may be more specific to people who want to use a laundromat anyways. May not be the mom out there who has 3 kids and doing laundry is a 4 to 6 hour event every single week. We want to target that demographic. Or, the super busy doctor, right? Who just has a lot going on, doesn't have time to do his laundry. We want to target that individual to be able to pick up and give them back what's most important at that point is time. So we reduce the options on the website from a pricing perspective, and then we reduce the options in terms of pickup, drop off availability. Beforehand, you could go in any day of the week, schedule a pickup day for your laundry picked up. Pretty convenient in terms of how it sounds, but from an operational perspective, if you're picking up 1 bag of laundry for a Tuesday, and that's your only load for that day, and you have runs throughout the next couple of days, it doesn't make a lot of sense financially to do that. You want to be able to pick up as many bags as you can on any given day, and then from there be able to return it within a 24 to 48-hour period. So we want to have quick, good services back to our customer, and the customers are really good too because they realize, hey, I'm using this once a week, or I'm using this bi-monthly, or I'm using this monthly. So pick up to them, it's almost easier just to have them have a day they know it's going to recur every single time. They don't choose that day. It's once a week on a Friday. We'll pick up, we'll drop off.
So you've been confident enough that it can change their behaviors. So it's not the same situation where I'm just throwing a small load in my own washer, right? You're looking at these behaviors become regular, like a garbage day or whatever other regular thing happens.
Yeah, well, that's a good example is like I live in the Midwest. There's plenty of grass, so people use lawn care, right? They hire somebody to cut their grass, and that's on a weekly basis, right? The way lawn care is set up and designed today is they come on a weekly basis, typically almost every single day, or the same day of any given week. And then from there, they go to cut the grass. They charge like 50, $55 to cut the grass, for a quarter acre, half an acre. The difference is that service is done within like a half an hour, and that person gets paid that amount of money, right? I like to think we bring a little bit more value from that perspective because we're giving people time back, like literally 4 to 6 hours a week back from not having to do their own laundry. And again, these individuals are typically people who that's probably most valuable to them is time, especially post pandemic. Like one thing we learned as a world is, okay, great to have a good job, great to be able to travel, do different things, like all that's super important. But there's one thing I'm not getting back is time. So how do I live a life that's more balanced and get to do things I want? So at the core, I really think that one of the biggest benefits that we provide is that, 4-letter word, time back to the customer.
I love that because what you're offering is just so simplistic to an everyday need. And like, which is also one of the best business things you can do. You find the need and you fill it with a service. That's really the crux of business. Like you
Sure.
look at the marketplace, where's somebody needs something and fill the need. So kudos to you guys. I know you're in your first few months. How's it going so far?
So far, so good. And I have to give a shout out to my business partner, who's happened to be my brother. He's I couldn't have done it without him. I mean, he's the type of guy. So his background, he's a previous captain, firefighter, paramedic, nothing to do with laundry care, but that type of background and who he is as a person, he just rolls up his sleeves and gets stuff done, right? And when
Well,
you
but
you
did
kind of
you have a
can.
laundry background before you chose to do this?
No, in fact, I shouldn't say this, probably least qualified to do laundry in terms of just the experience piece because my wife does all of our laundry and she's amazing. So both of our wives are actually involved behind the scenes as well. They do a lot of the laundry and so forth, and it's truly a family-owned type of business. So shout out to Austin, Caitlin, Lauren, the whole group. But no, he rolls up his sleeve, he gets it done, and you combine that together with what we're trying to do, and it can be impactful. And so we're excited.
So, okay, let's talk about this family owned business dynamic because that's a
Yeah.
lot of my listeners, a lot of business is family
Sure.
owned and generated. How's how because I know at the beginning of this conversation, you already said that you had an idea of something and he said that was a dumb idea, but this one wasn't. So it sounds like you guys are pretty honest with each other.
Yeah, checks and balances, right? I mean, it's super helpful at times because we're comfortable enough to be candid towards different ideas or points of execution for the business. But at the same time, I like to think that we would run on something that's a good idea, and we both get behind that. And we're never. What's neat about us is I think you have to have a business partner who is a complement to your own weaknesses, right? It's nice to be able to agree with people for sure, but at the same time, and I'm sure you know this, Christy, from your background, your line of work is you have to have people that can kind of push you out of your own comfort zone, and vice versa, right? And because of our backgrounds are so different, we do that to each other. And then on top of that, you have the wives involved who are actually doing more of the execution piece. So their feedback is critical, right? Because they're going to tell you like this is working, this is not working, things of that nature. And so you kind of combine all that together. And I like to think it makes it a very dynamic, powerful team. Now, do we have moments where we disagree and stuff? Absolutely, right? But that also makes a good point that you have to drive with points of reason, right? Like we're naturally humans of emotion. And so anybody, right? So you can't be like, I think this, and then not give a reason why. You have to kind of explain why. You try to back it up with either data, experience, whatever it might be to help drive that. But at the end of the day, again, I think we actually work really good together as a team. So I couldn't do it without any of them.
That is fantastic. Uh, my most entertaining family businesses are husband and wife teams.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that like you have both your brother and your wife involved in this, and he has his wife. So, do you guys ever separate business conversation with like do you have boundaries in place for your business and family? What's that like?
Um, I don't know. Right. right now, because of how relatively new it is and everybody's all in, which is good, right? There is a full commitment
Mhm.
coming from everybody and everybody has the same goal and focus. Yeah, I mean, I'll speak for my wife and I can't speak for my brother and his wife in terms of their boundaries. My brother and I, it's anything, anytime. We can pick up the phone, talk, it don't matter if it's 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. the next day, right? It can be any topic. As far as family events, though, typically it's pretty separated. We like to try to focus, and we both have little kids, right? Both families here, so we try to focus on the moment and enjoy things of whatever it is. So if it's like a Thanksgiving dinner, right? We're enjoying that moment, and we try not to get too many topics of business. Do my brother and I, walk outside and have a couple conversations about business? Absolutely, for sure. But we try to balance it. But for my wife and I, no, it's really good. We if there's anything urgent or important, we'll go ahead and discuss it. But we try to kind of cut off around a certain time at night in general, so that we can, recharge our batteries, focus on the parts of our lives that are probably even more important, like our family or our faith or whatever it might be. And then we'll pick up things where the last left off, if it is business related.
So what are you finding so far that you like really enjoy about it?
Oh, for me, it has to be. I get such a kind of a kick or a drive, if you will, from the sales and marketing side. I just really, and I also enjoy learning customer behavior. Kind of what makes them tick, what makes people evaluate decisions and why they make it in terms of our world. I think there's also a point of genuinely helping people. I do believe that this service, I can't say it's a want or a need, but it is maybe a desire to have or want type of service. But if we are providing it, it's incredibly rewarding knowing that like we're helping somebody out in the capacity that matters to them. So if they use our service, we know that this matters to them, right? And so we want to do the best we can, and that's a super good feeling to say, hey, we just helped out this mom or helped out this dad or helped out this professional, whatever it was, to let them do things they'd rather do instead. And I think that's super helpful. But at my core, it goes back to probably sales and marketing.
So what's been your biggest challenge with it?
Wow, good question. Biggest challenge is probably two things. One is understanding the market. Like I think it's easy to hop on. I think it's relatively easy, especially nowadays with technology, where they're using AI or whatever to figure out
Mhm.
important pieces of businesses to a degree, like as a 50,000 foot overview. And that's what we
Right.
did initially. As you start to really dive deep into the niche, truly understanding how it works, right? And for me, early on, my initial thought was like, we got to change pricing. But then as I started kind of challenging myself, I'm like, man, all of the competitors though are doing a pound. Is there a reason why? Is maybe they figure it out, and I'm just the guy who kind of came in, the new kid on the block, and thought, maybe let's change things up. You don't want to change things just for the sake of it. You want to do it for a reason. So for me, it's been challenging to really understand the market, given that I don't have 30 years of experience, at a laundromat or providing laundry services. So diving deep into that, and then being confident enough to kind of go out there to change that model that's new to the industry, and feel comfortable with that to say, hey, let's at the very least push us forward to test it to see how, it responds. But we feel super good that we're being transparent, and I think that's awesome when you can do that for pricing and for services.
Yeah, it helps whenever, especially if you're making the decisions in the household and you're living by a budget of really any kind. If you're, it doesn't matter how big or small that budget is, it's always good. Like if you're going to add a new service to as a line item for a household budget, it helps to know what you're
Yeah.
getting yourself into on the front end. So I'm a big fan of that. If you couldn't tell, like I like to know
I
what I'm
love
getting
that.
myself into.
I love that.
So before we actually started this whole before we hit record in our when I call the proverbial green room, if you will, you and I talked about one of the books. You showed me a book and we talked about some the EOS,
Yeah.
right? So is that, I mean, I know that that would be one of your influencers. Do you have other like mentors and influencers that you go to, you rely on for extra insight or tips and tricks and best practices and things like that? Who do you go to, Andrew, when you need something?
Oh, it's a handful of people, probably depending on what it is. So I love this question because I don't ever view myself as the sharpest tool in the shed, which I think I'm doing the right thing if I'm in a good shed, right? Because I'm around people who are smarter. I'm around people who, you know, I think it's kind of cliche to be like, surround yourself by a bunch of smart people. I would say surround yourself with people who are smart, but that have the right perspective, because perspective comes from experience or even mistakes, right? And again, a day and age where you can just download digitally a bunch of information, and you see it in social media quite a bit. You get people who kind of go on, that can sometimes be relatively young, and they're talking as if they have 40 years of experience. Probably not the case, right? In most instances, it's the fact that they just download a bunch of information, kind of got in front of a camera and started pitching, and they do it well, which is great for them. But I really want people who have dove deep in a certain area of focus. Hopefully, it's a little bit different than mine because their perspective is going to be different than mine. And so I think I have a couple different groups. One, I mentioned faith earlier. I have a group of friends and family who are locked in on the word as Christians, and that can help drive a lot of decisions for sure in my life. It's very impactful too from a moral standpoint. And then two is people with different backgrounds at different industries. So my father's been a big impact to me. He's had a lot of years in the business world. I know some other folks in the industry who have different spots that they've kind of operated in, but that bring a lot of perspective. So I think you always have to be willing to seek mentors. I think you have to be willing to ask for help for sure, because you can figure it out yourself. If there's a will, there's a way. Or you can talk to somebody who's already figured it out, and you can save a lot of challenges and pain. So the answer to that question, Chris, would certainly be, it depends on the group. It depends what my problem or my challenge is. But ultimately, I would even say it's a mindset. So I don't know if we really deal with problems or challenges. It's just puzzles. It's puzzles that we have to solve to get to the end of a solution. And when you approach things of that nature, like, hey, this isn't a problem, it's a puzzle. I don't know about you. Whenever I did a puzzle, I was pretty slow at it, but once I figure it out, you start to gain traction. But my mindset is, it's a puzzle. It can be solved, rather than
Yeah.
it's a problem. I don't know if I can solve this.
I'm laughing. I'm giggling at myself because my great grandma loved puzzles. Like, we grew up in a family of puzzle people, and I never got the hang of it quick enough for my family. Because I'm like, ooh, this would go like, and they're like, no, like, look at do the frame first. This, like, they had their ways of how to do the puzzle, put the puzzle together. And I'm over here just like, la di da di da da da. Like, I'll get to what I want
So,
to.
so I knew you grew up in rural Indiana. Was this the alternative between playing with the cows or the pigs on the
Yes,
side and
yes.
doing okay.
This was the we'd go once a month to go see great grandma, and it would be me and my mom and her twin sister and their aunt. So we had four generations of us around a kitchen table putting together one of these god awful puzzles that, and it inevitably, I'm the one that going to get kicked out of the table because I'm too slow. Like,
But the conversations that must have came from that table.
oh, that's, I guess it's called, spilling the tea. Yeah, we got all the tea, all the tea. And we would also joke because the generational conversations
Yeah.
and the relationship between my mom and my great grandma was definitely a different one than I was allowed, or anybody else was really allowed to have with her. So my mom would say very tactless things to my great grandma, and my great grandma would just giggle. And I'm like, if I ever said something like that, I'd get my ass whipped. So how'd you get away with that?
I will never understand the dynamic between a mother and daughter, to this day. It's one of those things. Talk about puzzles. I don't know if I'll solve that one, which goes back on my whole spiel earlier. But still, it's one. It's a puzzle. I don't play with.
There are plenty of pieces missing in my puzzle of life. I'm like, I don't even know. I don't know what's put in there. We'll just like force something, I guess. So yeah, but I do love the puzzle aspect because you're right. It's a matter of, and everybody, it's almost like toilet paper. What's the right way to put the puzzle together? Like,
Yeah, right.
over or under. People have, you fall under different camps. Do you put the frame together first? Do you sort out all of your colors? Do you actually go by the picture, or you do it as a surprise? Like, how do you like put the puzzle together? And depending on the objective, are you there just to shoot the shit all day? And it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. Do you need to get that
Right.
puzzle? This is my family. Put the puzzle together so you can glue it together and frame it and put it on the wall to say that you've got the puzzle
Oh,
done.
classic. I love it. Classic. And you can see the work you did. I like the concept.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, oh, God, I can't believe we got on a tangent about puzzles. Anybody else out there doing puzzles like that? Just let me know. We still have a whole garage full of puzzles because we've inherited puzzles over the years. And so my mom and my mom and her aunt live in Tennessee, and my mom's husband, but the garage has like hundreds of puzzles. So
You know what you should do, Christy? You should complete the puzzle, glue it all together, and send it as a Christmas gift out to the family. They can't take it apart, right? It's going to destroy it, and they might like it because you did something for them that's pastime with the family.
and it took time and effort to do
It's,
that.
it took time and effort to do that. That's right.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So moving on from puzzles, I think everybody gets the analogy, just putting the puzzle pieces together for the business or solving the problem or, that kind of thing. There's actually, and I'm pointing to this side of my room where my bookcase is. I have a book and it is an older book and it is Entrepreneur. Where is it? I can't see it, but it's an older book about entrepreneurship written by a business owner and operator. So not just somebody who owned a business and sold it, but
Sure.
actually operated that. And he in that book says the best mentors in business are trial and error. Because you don't know what you don't know until you get in and you're like, oh, that didn't work. And so
Yeah.
now you've learned you learn along the way. Even if somebody tells you, sometimes you're like not convinced.
Yeah.
And so then you do it anyway, and you do figure out a lot from experience. And this is another reason why I love my small to medium business owners who are actually operating it, whether you've created it from scratch or you bought into a franchise, you're in it,
Right.
working it. And these are the smart people of the world. And when I say smart, it's not just book smart. It's know how the world works, how people work and developing those relationships and providing good service so that your business continues. That's important. Like that's smart. That's what's going to keep us going whenever the apocalypse comes, I
Yeah.
guess, whenever
So
that is.
can I give an example on that? Because I love that
Absolutely.
talking point. So you have the book smart of that would be like the lifetime value, right? It's kind of an overused acronym everybody's focused on. I get it. I understand. The concept would be from a book standpoint. I want what's the lifetime value of my customer? How long does it last? How do I prolong it or how do I keep the customers around? Very, very important because up front, you got to figure out how much is it costing you for each customer you're getting. If you're the e-commerce world, would say the book smart or the kind of book smart of the world, the street smarts, if you will, the people who are focused more on the human relationship side because they really believe in it. And there's the genuine authenticity to it. It is going to be able to execute that better than just saying, okay, I have a lifetime value. Like, how do I do that? I'm being told to do this. People who take a customer from start to finish in their service, and they're the ones who do it themselves. You know exactly how that impacts them, right? And what moves the needle with them. But more importantly, like, is your service providing that along the way for their journey with you? And if you can combine those, that's powerful to me, right? Like
Yes.
that's super powerful, but you can't, again, you can throw the word lifetime value out, you can throw customer acquisition costs, you throw any phrase you want, sound smart. But if you're not doing that back end piece from the execution standpoint and actually in it, it means nothing. And so that's why I love you bringing that up because I can't agree more with you, very much so that you have to be able to do it, and it makes impact.
What I have found so far in having a lot of these interviews is that this environment of small to medium business, those that are in it, are the ones who have found that when you're too corporate, and I'm using my air quotes here, too corporate,
Yeah.
everything becomes too formulaic. The personability of it has been removed from the process of doing business. And that's the biggest missing piece is they no longer feel the energy from the people that they're serving. And so they've lost their place in the classic corporate machine. They've lost their place in it. And so they separate themselves to create that space that actually is serving humanity in some form or fashion. And they're reconnecting to that sort of energy with it. That
Yeah.
in terms of the faith part, where magic really happens is where two or more are gathered.
Yeah.
There I am with you. And then all kinds of amazing, miraculous stuff can start to happen. And it's a ripple effect
Yeah.
of really amazing things that is really running our country this way. But, I digress about, let's not go down that rabbit hole. We don't have
Yeah.
time for
Well,
politics.
it's so good though, because I mentioned earlier, I have the advantage, I have a business partner, and I do view that as a advantage because the fact of my weakness is his strength. So I have a strong corporate background. I'm going to be more process driven than him, which is helpful at times.
Mhm.
I'm going to be more, my strengths are different than his. He has, because he was a firefighter for a lot of years, and he's a paramedic, and he's a paramedic today. He's that human to human service side that just is so helpful, and it balances me out too, right? And I'm so thankful for that, because I think there's an authenticity to any business that you want to provide to connect with people, because we're human to human, and he does so well at that to where I have to kind of work on that. I'm just wired a little bit differently, and I'm thankful for that. Like my weakness, absolutely, I admit that for sure, but it's his strength. Now, you and I talked on the green, you mentioned the green pre-call about Excel sheets, right? It's not everybody's big into Excel sheets. I'm not an Excel expert, but I don't mind living in that area a little bit more than he would, right? Which is helpful from a back end small business owner. You have to know your numbers. Like,
You
does the
do.
math make sense? As you scale to hire employees, for example, at what point are you breaking even? At what point, how many services or products are you pushing to build in? And then they'll scale to pay for somebody. And at what pay rate can you give them? And then can you grow it from there? And do you want to move into a physical location? And all that stuff? There has to be math, because you can be really good with relationships and drive business, but if you're not kind of a steward of the money behind the scenes or paying attention to what's going on, all of a sudden you find yourself in a really tough position that you didn't mean to get there, but you're not tracking that, right? And so you want to kind of have both the best worlds if possible, so.
Well, and to your point, like you have a partner and you guys complement each other. Businesses like me, where I created mine, right? And I've added some key people along the way, but I still find myself where I'm still like we talked before, I'm still doing roles that are not my sweet spot. And those roles, like I've said before, are anything to do with spreadsheets. So and I'll share with the audience, if I can do it and I can do it really well, I can make sure it's correct. I know my numbers, I know the things. But what I have found about myself is if I have to do it more than 2 days in a row, I'm miserable. I am, and I take it out on other people, or I have to go cocoon myself. And then I've like
Right.
wasted time doing the things that I need to be in my sweet spot within my own business. So that's part of my strategic plan this year, is to get me in my sweet spot and find that complement person who can do all of that. And then all I have to do is read the executive summary. Like, I don't want to have to do the numbers. I want to read the numbers.
Yeah, and you're definitely not the type, Christy, that has to ask this question, but I think other small business owners, because I've done consulting with small business owners, a small business owner before, you have to ask yourself honestly, truthfully in the mirror, are you willing to give up whatever that might be, even if you don't like it, because there's an amount of control you have to give up to somebody else. But at the same time, at its core, that's the only way to scale,
It
because you're
is.
only one person. And even if you're really good at what you do, it's better to be able to have a team that's 80% of what you could do on that one specific task or project, whatever it is, or whatever they're managing, because that's going to help you scale. And that's that kind of self-awareness, let alone question, you have to be honest with yourself. Because a lot of businesses, oh yeah, I'll give it up, I got no problem. And then they do it for like a week or two, and they struggle, right? It's a really, really big deal. But that's that jump. That's that jump that honestly a lot of small business owners have a difficult time doing. The ones who are successful look back and say, I am so glad I took that jump. It was scary, it was nervous, I had to give up trust, control. It was difficult at times, but I made that jump, and I was here, and now I'm not even on camera anymore. I'm here, right? Because how much you go. So
I wholeheartedly agree. I've done some consulting myself through these kind of phases. And I also have a business partner, and I'm a partner in his business. and he struggles with the letting it go for somebody else to do it. There's the like he needs to immediately know that you've got it done. And I'm like, you know what? You're gonna wait till I get done in the bathroom. That's what we're gonna do right now. Like I'm gonna make you wait 5 minutes
Yeah.
before you ask me that
Right.
question again. So he gets anxious about the letting go of the control of things. And it is definitely one of the top three things that's the hardest for a business owner to do is let go of some control to be able to grow. Because you cannot grow. You
Right.
can't grow by yourself. You cannot grow your profession. You cannot grow you as an individual. You cannot grow your business. You cannot grow anything in a vacuum by yourself on an island. Can't do it.
But what would you say? You said top three things. What would you say the other two would be for small business owners?
Deciding what you really want.
Yeah.
I spend a good 75% of an initial time with my clients getting them to ultimately decide exactly what you're wanting. Because if we don't have a vision or a destination in mind of at the next milestone, like what do you really want to create here? And don't tell me more money. Thanks for playing the game of
Right.
business, right?
Yeah. I want to be a millionaire. Yeah.
Right. We all want more money. But what is it that you're really trying to create with this and that the business should support? And I spend hours upon hours over and over until we get that so solid because that needs to become a non negotiable of we're going this direction. How we get to there, right? How we get to Yosemite can be all kinds of different things, but we're going there.
Right.
The plan is flexible, but the destination needs to be like, or you can change your mind, but you can't do it like every single week. Like sticking to it. That's a hard number, the top three things. And then so letting go of control, knowing exactly what you want to do. And then believe it or not, it's the financial acumen of it.
Mm.
Working in the finances of even developing a budget
Yeah.
to be able to do all the things that you want to do because ideas flow pretty fast. Like we all have great ideas and all the creative things that we want to do within our business. But a lot of those ideas are going to require more money and more people and more time, the triangle here of things. Um, and sometimes you can get away with doing things in trade. So the money's not the issue, but you still need people and you still need time to do it. So working out what those resources are based on the ideas, but the financial piece, most people I've worked with don't even have a marketing budget.
Mm.
So why do you think the first thing in a time of crisis is that they get rid of is marketing? Because for whatever reason, they don't think nobody needs to know about us, so we're not going to spend any money on it. I've never understood that behavior, but I that is the behavior, and because they just don't have an understanding of how this line item affects other things in the business, and that's down to that level, the financial acumen of it, not just reading your P&Ls, not just knowing your bottom line, how much profit you got, but what does that line item do for everything else in the business?
Totally. Yeah,
So
and I love that on the budgeting side too. I think there has to be an element of, I guess maybe it is financial literacy, right? But of savings, because you can have that money for a rainy day when needed as a small business owner. It also gives you flexibility and room. It takes the pressure off. So if the economy does change all of a sudden, and to your point, right, someone starts whacking away at the marketing budget, and you don't want to do that, right? So yeah, I love that. That makes a lot of sense, and I can imagine. I don't know if it all derives from the mindset of just thinking you're doing good enough, right? Because you see this too sometimes as a small business owner. There's ups and downs of like really hungry for business, and then they have plenty, and that hungry goes away.
they just
So sometimes
yeah, they get plateaued off.
yeah, right. And I don't, if you're scaling, you can never lose that hunger. You certainly want to make right decisions for the business. And I think as a business owner, Warren Buffett, I think, talked about this, but like the number one thing you can do is like focus. And I agree strongly with that because a lot of small business owners I have found, in my opinion, talking with other ones, certainly more successful than me would be, they have lots of ideas. ton of ideas, even within their markets at times, unless maybe it is a trade that they passed down from the father or something, but they have lots of different ideas and they start trying a lot of different things and they kind of get spread thin and they don't do really anything good. And it's such an easy thing to say, like, hey, just focus. But it's so hard to do at times, especially when we're surrounded in a world where there's so many distractions around us. Personal life, business life, you name it. And they don't dive deep into something, right? And it's again very simple to say, but very difficult to do for a lot of people to dive deep into something specific and get really good at what they do. And then from there, when you become the expert, the true expert in that industry, and you start to network with people and different things, like it opens up so many more doors because you know to the nth degree about that particular service or product, whatever it might be.
Absolutely. And in my speaking industry, that's the advice they give all the time.
Mm.
Inch wide, mile deep.
Yeah. Let's drill.
Drill. Don't be a mile wide, inch deep. That's like, don't be the generalist, be the specialist, be the expert in that thing. Which I'm working on because I think I have two top things I'm really an expert at. Three is so marketing, obviously, marketing and leadership.
And puzzles, soon to be puzzles.
Yes, puzzles. So I've kind of went strategy. If I picked one word, I am an expert in strategy. And so even with my book, The Being Super, having the hero's journey applied to your life, that's still very much strategy driven. So that's my expertise. Okay, enough about me. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received? We're gonna start closing out this because I want really good stuff. Best piece of advice you've ever received.
Um, whew. Um, I guess the first one that comes to mind is nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I believe that to be absolutely true through experiences. Um, and I think tied to that, can I give two? Is that okay?
Sure, you could break the rules.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm breaking some rules here. The second one would be, which I really get behind this one for sure, is if you want to go, and this is my nature, but if you want to go fast, go alone. It's an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And you can do so much more with people around you than you can yourself. And my nature, just like, oh, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And I have found that like when you work with other people, especially people who are better at you than something, or that are just different, bring a different perspective, you can go really far. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, I've learned something today.
Yeah, I love those moments. All right, final question, Andrew. You ready?
Hit me.
What does success mean for you?
Oh, success would mean for me would be finding happiness in whatever you do. To your point, everybody wants to make more money. Everybody wants something, tangible, physical. Sometimes it can be more than that. I think for me is finding happiness in what you're doing with the right expectations. And I think that answers for me anyways, my whole life. Like it's going to be work-life balance. It's going to be how I raise my children. It's going to be how I am as a husband to my wife. It's going to be how I am to my customers. It's going to be how I look in the mirror at myself. Right. How I'm serving God in my life. It's going to be, that happiness is going to be super important for me. And by the way, if you asked me that 10 years ago, you would have got a totally different answer. I have learned through strain, there's strength, and I've learned through a lot of strain to get to that point. But I would say at this point in my life, it's probably going to be that happiness for sure. It would be success to me, and me defining that, right? You wouldn't want too many other people to have their input on what that should be for your life, as long as you're doing good to those around you and helping out this world.
I love that. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being my guest today. Looking forward to keeping up with you and be fresh laundry.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. So I told you it was a great episode. I love talking about family owned business, the family dynamics, and the puzzle pieces. Of course, we joke about it. And I ain't kidding. Nobody likes doing puzzles with me because it's not my thing. but it could be sometimes every once in a while, maybe if I do it by myself, I don't know. Anyway, my family loved puzzles and having the whole concept that you're solving problems like a puzzle. So instead of thinking that there's no solution, there is, you just might be missing a piece. It gives you a new perspective of how to look at challenges in your life. And kind of like what I do with the Being Super message, applying the hero's journey. It's a different perspective on how to show up to your challenge, to your life in general. I loved having this conversation with him. As he mentioned afterwards, he's like, it flowed so well and it was so much fun. And he's right. It was a very fun conversation. And I loved hearing like it's consistent. When I ask about who influences you the most or who are your influencers, it has yet to fail that there's always been a family member, whether it be a grandpa, a mom, a dad, that has influenced them the most. So for all of you parents out there, business owner parents, you are influencing your next generation like you couldn't even imagine right now. So keep it up, keep it going, do all of the great things, and I will see you again on the next episode of Small Business Success Talk. I've been your host, Christy Smallwood. Thanks, everybody.